when Jesus came onto the earth, he would forever change the relationship that humanity had with their creator, with their God. And that's a pretty incredible thing. But what was amazing about the good news of the gospel was not just that Jesus made a way where there was no way. Because just by that, we still wouldn't necessarily have wanted to enter into what he was offering. But there was also this idea that Jesus, through what he was doing here on the earth in his incarnation, was also creating the desire, the understanding, making God known in a way that we suddenly realize the value of what he was offering on the cross. That he not only made a way, but he also made a way for us to understand the beauty and the value of what he was offering. And so when we are talking about creating a community around our lives, of people that we are leaning on and pouring into and walking with as they pursue after Christ, we call that small group community, that group that you are doing life with and ministry to. Like, how do you create that community? How do you lead that community? And so often when we start to think through this, we talk about it through the lens of finding, fighting for, and feeding. Really, it's kind of the big picture outline that we use when we talk about these kinds of concepts. But before we get there, it's important to recognize what we're doing, because we're trying to, as best as we can, really express the methods that Jesus did in his own life as well. Right? In our world today, the church has often said that people need to belong before they believe. And I believe that, but that would suggest at its core, in that idea is this concept that the greatest issue that we're having is that people just aren't able to belong, right? As if the world wants to come into the church and wants to connect with Christian community. If only they had a way, if only they were invited in, if only they could be in that inner circle. But I would say that our world today largely doesn't even desire that. They don't desire to enter into belonging into our community. So why would they believe as a result? And so when we talk about how do we find people and fight for them and feed them, we're looking, Christ, what did you do to bring us to this place of understanding what you were doing and why it was so valuable in our lives? And so when we talk about that, we're kind of really breaking out like the big picture of really where there's a lot more detail below on this page, where we're really breaking down these concepts in more detail below, just trying to give you like an overview to work from as we walk into these ideas of, as a small group leader, what am I trying to do to get to that place of really having a community around my life? And so when we talk about finding, what we talk about, what we're meaning is a community of people who are okay with you, Jesus, in your community. Probably just contacts, connections that you make on the campus and maybe during dorm move-ins or during your classes or connecting with people on the plaza. But like, are they okay with you, Jesus, in your community? And we really think that's important because you are not enough and your community is not enough. That without that partnership that God designed for us to enact with him, to act out with him, the world won't realize the beauty of what he's offering. And so when we say like these three frames of friendship, we're talking, are they okay with you, Jesus, in your community? And they don't need to even want Jesus. They don't even need to want your community, but they need to be okay with the fact that, hey, he's going to be around. And this is part of my life. And you start with what they want, whatever that is, whether that's they want Jesus and they're trying to figure out if they're interested in your community, or if they want community and they're trying to figure out who Jesus is, or whatever it is. You start with what they want, you kind of move them to what they need from there. But when we talk about that, we're looking for like, are they okay with those three things? Do they want one? But then if we kind of move from there, then we're talking about fighting for them. And when we talk about fighting for them, we're taking it from, hey, they're okay with us, Jesus, in our community, to now saying, hey, we're trying to give them experiences with us, Jesus, in our community. We're trying to give them encounters, right? Like there's love encounters through our community and through the expression of the community of God loving each other, and they're invited into that. Right, kind of that belong before you believe thing. Like there's truth encounters. Like, are we speaking about Jesus? Are we loving him in their midst, right? Is there power encounters? Are we giving them opportunities to actually interact, to experience relational God in their lives? Like when we can pray for them and give them opportunities to reach out and to seek the Lord in their own life. And so are we giving them encounters with us, Jesus, in our community? And the two ways that we do that is, one is by pursuit. And this is one of the most powerful principles that we can work from, that Jesus came to this world, that he came to us because we could not go to where he was. We probably wouldn't have even wanted to until he had come and made himself known to us through that. And so we, in the same way, go to the people that we're fighting for. We need to enter into their world and get to know their community and let them teach us something and be where they are. And we need to invite them into our world to spend time with our community and to encounter experiences with the community and the love of Christ as a result of inviting them into our lives. And so as we pursue them into their world, as they experience our community, we begin to really kind of do life together. We begin to have rhythms of relationship that work from there, that really begin to create a greater and greater desire. Sometimes we say people will love what you love if they love you. People will love the things that you are passionate about. If they fall in love with you, they'll fall in love with what you love. So as people begin to have encounters with you, Jesus, in your community, they begin to really fall in love with the idea of going deeper in those things. And that's where really we begin to see them buy into the idea of community, that they buy into my small group and really want to be a part, and not just like kind of checking it out or being around a little bit from the outside, but really see themselves as like being part of this group. And that's where we want to get them, because from there we can begin to impart the kingdom into their lives. So we can begin to impart in a way that they begin to express the convictions that we've been expressing through our community, in our lives, and with our relationship with God. That we call this KPR, that our personal walk with God, our kingdom relationships, our responsibility expressing itself. That as we have kingdom relationships in our lives, that they begin to now express that. They begin to grow in that as we have fed them, as we feed them in their lives, those convictions of honor and love and vulnerability and forgiveness and all these kind of things. Like they begin to express that back into the community, right? As they begin to have greater impartation through our lives on how we have a walk with God, they begin to emulate that. They begin to express that in their own lives as well. You know, as we have pursued them in their world and invited them into ours, as we've fought for that friendship, then they take on responsibility to turn around and do that for someone else. And so in this way, we start to see like these three frames of friendship we kind of work through: finding, fighting for, and feeding. As they are okay with those three, then they begin to have experiences that deepen their encounters with those three, that then help us get them to a place of expressing those three in KPR. And as we begin to see our friends, our world begin to have more people in it that are beginning to fight for the people around them, suddenly we find that through what we call a lifestyle of ministry versus just intentional outreach here, now we actually talk about fighting for, finding, and feeding, which is a whole other concept down below here, but same ideas, just in a different order, with the people that are just your coworkers and your classmates and those dorm mates down the hall. Like all of a sudden, as we start to see that every person on our university is relationally connected with someone who's fighting for them, we believe that as the atheist has a crisis of worldview and we have a Christian in their life that's fighting for them, as we have a prodigal who's ready to come back and there's someone, calling them back home, as we have, the person from a different religious background, but suddenly they encounter the power of Jesus in our community, as we begin to have this impact on our campus, we believe that we would see our university transformed, because every person has someone in their life that's fighting for their campus, for their friends, for their world. And in that way, we begin to see our world transformed, our university changed from the inside out, and the kingdom of God advanced in our place of ministry and life.